Culture and retentions, and this is about Juneteenth celebration here in 2022, and I'm going to shift different aspects of my presentation towards emphasizing that event. And how many people here know anything much about it? Read a little bit, heard a little bit, radio, read the books and everything. So you know that it is a celebration of the Emancipation Proclamation, which is declared almost 2 years before that by Abraham Lincoln. But in those days, time was, information traveled slowly, not like today, so they depended on the horse. And you know, the railroads didn't even carry the information as well. So it wasn't until the military, the Army, came and made the declaration, actually enforced it in Texas. And that was meaningful, you know, 1619. 1619 was a different date. This was 1865.
Yes.
Yeah, because he did this in 1863, I suppose. And it was funny that in Texas, a lot of the slave owners would actually, from neighboring states, would send their slaves to Texas because they knew that the word was not going to get there for a long time and that they could hang on to their slaves later. They were thinking it wouldn't go through. And this was, this caused there to be a huge number of enslaved people in Texas when this finally happened. And as you may know, the emancipation didn't happen all at once across the country either. And even when a place declared it, that the slaves were free, a lot of the people who were in charge hung on to them still and continued for many months, even a year or more. So it was meaningful, yet it was still staggered, as you know how I mean staggered. So we're looking at that, and a whole lot of new information these days, and we are learning more about our country, and more about the pros and the cons, and more about the culture of people who are immigrants. I myself am an immigrant. I came here when I was 4, though, so I pretty much grew up here. I came from Jamaica, and became a citizen at 9, and it was so much easier then. But as you know, when there's a whole lot of people trying to do anything, there are a lot of barriers. You know, the situation gets too crowded, and you seek control of the situation, and there's fear. So I am grateful to have become a citizen. Even being a 9, I had no idea what that meant, but over the years, I learned more and more. And at the age of 9, I started to drum. I was in a boring math class. It wasn't too hard, it was boring. And I wanted to do something more interesting, so I ended up studying drums in the basement with my friends on a long table. Each one of us had a pair of sticks and a piece of tile that you put on the floor. And we started learning. And I kept it up, although my life has taken me different paths around arts administration and working with the local politicians. I worked for the Mass Black Caucus the first time I got out of school, my first job. And then I moved to be a dancer when I got ill during arts administration and couldn't stand being in the fluorescent lights in the office and the commute on the train. And I started working in Western Mass, even further out from Boston than here. I was at Smith College and the 5 colleges, teaching dance out there, and continued to do that. And I moved to California before then, for 11 years, right out of school. And I actually got hooked on Latin culture there in Berkeley, California. and learned how many people are leading creative lives, which I had no idea of in the 70s in Boston. And continue to study many different forms of dance, Renaissance dance, Balinese dance, modern dance, and got into Brazilian dance in a heavy way. And that's one of my specialty areas. These drums are from Brazil, 1, 2, and 3. And this one fakes it, but it does it very well. A lot of these instruments are from Brazil. And in college, before I even moved to California, I had a chance to spend a year in Africa. And I was in Ghana. And this is a drum from West Africa. It's not necessarily a Ghanaian drum. It is the most famous drum in Africa. It's known as a djembe. Can you say that word with me? Djembe?
Djembe.
Djembe. And it's spelled D-J-E-M-B-E, like Javon mustard. And the djembe is now adopted everywhere. I mean, South Africa doesn't have a strong drum culture. You know, they have the Ladysmith Black Mambazo, choral singing, and they have the boot dance. They have a lot of good things, but they've adopted the djembe. And then, you know, Nigeria has the different drums. They have the bata drums, which look like shaped like an hourglass. You play them sideways. And they also have, in the West Africa, the talking drum, which I don't have here, but that one is shaped like an hourglass too. But the difference is that both ends are the same size, whereas with the bata drums, one is big, one is small. Even though it's a small one, the baby and the father and the mom is the big one. Each side is bigger than the other. So you get like 6 sounds with the bata drum, plus the nuances. But with the talking drum, you play one side only with this curved stick, and when you squeeze the middle, because it's shaped like an hourglass, it raises the pitch. And you can get tonal sounds and play proverbs and even simple sentences with that drum. And it's amazing that you can get all that just by squeezing and hitting with the stick. And then when they have the small version, you put it under your armpit so your hand is free. And then you can also dampen it with your hand so you get even more nuances with it. And there are some famous bands that use the talking drum very well. And then there is the shekere. I call this the mother of the shakers. And you have to be loose. And play it with a lot of reverb in your body. And there's an old great movie called something in Africa. What it was many bands from the 70s went over to Africa, soul bands, and they did a concert there, huge concert. And the African artists came out to greet them and to play parts of the concert. And one of them had a shekere that had all the beads on the inside, and it was sealed completely. It was like a basketball, but he was playing it in rhythm, moving it all around. Whoa. And it was amazing sounds, because what you try to do when they're inside is get all the beads to move as one, which is different here. So you see the maraca. This came from the Native Americans, not the Africans, not the Spanish, not the French, not the Portuguese. And you do want to try and get all the beats to move as one. And if I were to grab something over here, I'm off camera. Hello. I will come in. So they play the maracas in different ways. This is more like a South American style, whereas the Caribbean. cha-cha-cha from Cuba, or the bomba from Puerto Rico. Doom, 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 crack, 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 doom, 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 doom. One maraca only. So the maracas are very cool here. Try them out. Aha. And this one is a maraca of a Brazilian nature. And they come in big sizes, so big you have to hold them with two hands. And they're part of the carnival style of music that came about in 1928, when they went from playing something like conga drums, like something like a drum like shaped like this, to the metal drums. But when they played those, they still used some kind of shaker and scraper and bell. But when they got into the carnival music in the 1928, then they started using a lot of stuff that made big noise. But they had it controlled, and you had disciplined ranks of players. Like each one of these would be multiplied by however big the school was. It could be 5, it could be 10, it could be 30 of each group for the big samba schools in Rio de Janeiro. So we'll play some of this music later on as we get going. But that's the shaking style. Now see if you can get that fullness by going back and forward. And my friend who breaks it down more, he says, go up, go down. Same technique with that, you hold it differently. So everybody gets something? Here you go.
Well, thank you.
So let's try it. Okay. And you want the sound to go, the sound of the shaker goes with every beat. You don't have to change your shaking beat. You can shake it the same way for all of that. That's why you put it in the hands of people who have not played much before, because the shakers are hard to mess up. But at the same time, they add a lot. They add a lot. They really fill out the sound in a nice way. So if you can hear me and understand what I'm saying, we can do a little call and response. I say yeah, yeah in a questioning way, and you can say yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So what drum is this? This is the djembe, and it is made of goat skin on the top and wood. And most drums you will find from Africa have goat skin heads when it's made from a real animal. Sometimes they're plastic in stores, in the music store now. They make djembes out of fiberglass and plastic. They sound good. The conga drums, the ones that are shaped like this, named for the Congo, coming from the Congo, are made from wood and skin as well. But the skin is thicker, and it's like a little more giving you melodies, and usually you play a couple of them. But this is a dynamic sound. This is a good by itself, but also there's a core of a leader, and then the ranks, and then the bass, the basses. So the congas fit more with the band because you get real melodies with them, and you can tune them so they sound like a bit of a triad, if you're only using three. The basic is two, at least two. And the djembe is like, it has a great attack, it's dynamic, it gets high, it gets really high, cracks, and you be next to somebody, be careful with your ears. If they have hard hands, they're playing well. So, let's see. I think we'll start with a little African rhythm by a man named Babatunde Olatunji. Yeah, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
So Olatunji came to the States in the 50s to be a doctor. He was going to study medicine. He came from a good family. And when he found the ignorance here about Africa, even amongst the talented 10th, which is W.E. Du Bois' term for the black elites who had opportunity to study and go to college and become doctors and lawyers and, politicians. They didn't know Africa, really. So he dedicated himself to drumming and sharing the knowledge of Africa through drumming. And he started community drumming, people who do drum circles, like what I do. He started all that. And then he did the first 2 albums of black African music in this country. He recorded with African Americans, and it's called Drums of Passion, 1 and 2. And this is we're going to do one of the songs from that. So this song is for the conductor of the train. And as I talked about, the train was the thing after the horse that moved people and messages across the country. Even in Nigeria, the train's built by the British, and you've heard of what is that, the Orient Express? Mm-hmm. That's in India, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I've never been there. I think it's a very nice train. Anyway, this is the song. And you can shake your shaker to go along. Stick with tambourine. Song from Nigeria that was created, actually it's not only from Nigeria, it has words from the Fanti language, and it was created in the States by African Americans. It's called Funga Alafia. It means welcome and peace to you. So Alafia is the Yoruba word. Alafia. Tewksbury. It's a children's game. And the first time I heard it, it was done by a Latin musician named Afro-Latin. You ever seen the movie Mark Anthony and Jennifer Lopez? Mark Anthony's a famous salsa singer. He played Afro-Latin. Jennifer was his wife. It was a great movie. Very good. He came to a tragic end. But he was a talented young man from the poor part of Puerto Rico named Old San Juan. There was an area right below the scenic and picturesque and quaint Old San Juan. It's a great place to tour if you ever go to Puerto Rico and the capital, Old San Juan. And, well, let's say he gave a lot of joy to a lot of people. So, again, this is an interactive experience. Che che kule. And you can just say the words after me. Che che kule. Che che kofisa. Kofisa manga. Malati langa. Adele. Adele. Che che kule. Che che kofisa. Kofisa langa. Malati langa. Adele. See, you can follow me now. I'm going to give you some instructions in English. Hands on the head now. Cover those eyes. Down to the shoulders. Put it on the waist. Now you gotta stand up this way. Slap those knees. Turn a daily. Spin a daily. Switch a daily. Dance a daily. Now, try it again. Che che kule. Che che kofisa. Kofisa langa. La la ti langa. Un adele. Un adele. Hands on the head now. Cover those eyes. Down to the shoulders. Put it on the waist. Slap those knees. Turn a daily. Spin a daily. Stretch a daily. Dance a daily. Che che kule. Che che kule. Che che. So we've gone through our trilogy of djembe-laced rhythms. Okay, yeah, yeah?
Yeah.
Ashe, ashe. So ashe is the word for the spirit that we all have in us. Some people call it the chi. You've heard of the chi in martial arts. Yeah, so ashe, ashe. And some people use it to say amen as well. And it's a Yoruba-derived word, ashe. So we should move on to more understanding of the retentions of Africa here. And I think one important one as far as the music goes would be the clave. Now the clave is a rhythm, but it's also an instrument. And this is the clave here, instrument. Two, I call them fat sticks, but it doesn't do them justice. They are hardwood, and you hold one just placed on top of your finger, so it resonates, and you cross the other one across, and like that. So this is the clave instrument. Now, in Western bands, they have a piece of plastic that sounds like wood, and some in the catalog they'll call it some something block. But it's meant to be a clave. And if you go hear any salsa band, they will have one. And I could pull it out if you'd like to see it. Raise your hand if you do. Okay? Don't make me move then. So the clave is also a beat. And it goes like this. Now you've heard that before, right? Now there's rock and roll songs that have this beat in it. There's jazz music that has this beat in it. There's Latin music that certainly has this beat in it because the word clave is an adaptation of the word llave, which is key in Spanish. And Brazilian music has this beat in it, and I call them separate from the Latin people even though it's derived from Latin roots. The Portuguese-speaking world is a little different from the Spanish-speaking world just by the countries different. Brazil is like the biggest Portuguese-speaking country in the world. And the Latin countries all have differences, but the Latin language bonds you. You know, when you know the language of a country, you know something more than people who don't know it. So the Latin clave, this is also called the son clave by musicians because it comes from the son montuno, which is music that became the popular music in Cuba after the danzón. The danzón was a little more formal, a little more Spanish, a little more reserved for the elites. And it had a lot of like snare drum type of rhythm to it, like da 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 da. That type of feeling. And at some point though, often a danzón would switch because when that was going on, the Cuban swells would have their formal gatherings, and women with the fans, and the men being very elegantly dressed and bowing to each other, not touching though, and enjoying fine food, you know, small bits. And then the music would segue into something a little more soulful, and people would start to dance. And the dance would be the son montuno. And the music would be led and kept together by the clave. And the clave is found in all this Latin dance music from the world of salsa. But then, with the folkloric music, you have the most popular one in Cuba is called the rumba. That's the national dance too, and the national music. And they have their own clave which shifts one of the beats in the son clave to this. So you hear the third beat is held a little bit. Now the first one I played was this. So that rumba clave is also used in popular music, but it's a little more subtle, sometimes it's hard to grasp, so it's not as frequently used. But it's really a very kind of compelling, and has a tension that makes for good composition and good dancing. So rumba used two drums, and it sounded like, I think I'll play these guys. The lower one here, the high one here, would sound more like this. Ba, 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 ba. was a rumba created by people from various African nations, not just one place, because folks got together on the docks. That was where commerce happened, business happened, and where there was a lot of intermingling of whites and blacks and different African nations and rich and the poor. That's where a lot of the international trade was going on and all that. So the rumba was created in that type of a place. And also, just moving to Brazil, capoeira, which is a Brazilian martial art, dance, and sport, was created again in the city and by the docks. And people think that maybe it was one group because capoeira has a name for its original form, which is Angola. Capoeira Angola. The Portuguese thought that the Africans were from Angola for the most part. And a lot of them were, but they were from many places. So capoeira had that name in the beginning, and because it was a unifying force, it was a martial arts, and at that time, and not a dance, it was banned. So it went underground for 1880 till 1937, so about 50 years. So when it emerged because a famous teacher named Mestre Bimba created a systemized way of teaching it and rules. So now you had to have a job or be in school and have not play in the street. They had academies, you had uniforms, you had ranks, you had competitions, and that was called capoeira regional or regional. And it's evolved that way today. And it was disguised as a dance early on, though, because it was banned. So first they tried to kind of get away with it before it was banned, but it was clearly more than a dance, because the Portuguese were bad, doing bad things, but they weren't stupid. So they kept that character to today. So when you see capoeira being done, it has a basic step, which is like this, called the ginga, and then from that step they will do inside leg sweeps. They turn and do higher ones, higher than I can do. And they had freezes upside down. They had spins upside down on their heads. They could slide on their heads and then recover to their feet. They had movements where they could go down low and then come back up and lead with the foot. They had legends where people had to learn how to, if their hands were tied behind their back, leap in the air and move the hands underneath their feet and bring their hands to the front. Part of your training. There's a lot of stuff with capoeira. And what happened was, though, in the 70s, two masters, Mestre Gelon Vieira, people who I met, and, because I'm old, and Mestre and Laura Mille, they came to New York City to make their name in capoeira. And the poppers and the lockers, the guys who were doing this in Brooklyn and all that, stuff, and they saw it, what they were doing, and they had, capoeira was doing things on another dimension. They were low to the ground, they were spinning, and it was really beautiful, and they adapted it and moved it into their dance style, and that became breakdancing. Yeah, so, don't take my word for it. Check with the Rock Steady crew, the group that introduced breakdancing to the world in the movie Flashdance with I think it was Jennifer Beals. Yeah, they were featured in that film, and they were the early breakdance pop and mocking groups, and they know this, and they talked about it. So that's coming back to the idea of unity, things creating unity amongst folks, and then looking at Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico has this cultural expression called bomba. They have another one called plena. Can you say that word with me? Bomba?
Bomba.
Plena.
Plena.
Bomba?
Bomba.
Plena.
Plena.
Okay. So bomba uses drums, and plena uses frame drums we would call them tambourines, these guys, because there's no body. So that's why it's called the frame drum. This goes back to Egypt, Middle East, because the women used to play these. And they had sacred knowledge, and they played these drums very well, exclusively. And they have big ones too. And sometimes they have jingles, sometimes they don't. But they hold them like this. And Brazil, they hold them like this. This is a specialty instrument in Brazil. People do acrobatics with this. They spin them. They have ability to spin 1, 2, 3, 4. My friend can spin 5. How does he do that? With 2 hands only. Well, he has a stick with 3 prongs on it. So he gets them going, and then he put one on top of each prong, and then he'll get this one going and that one going, and he'll do it. It's wild. His name is Curtis Pierre, and he's in New Orleans. You can look him up. The group is called Casa Samba. And what I'm going to say is Plena uses these. And Plena is like a living newspaper in Puerto Rico. The lyrics would be about contemporary issues of the day. And during Christmas time, they would do what we call Christmas caroling from house to house, but they would be playing these and doing Plena rhythms and have songs that related to Christmas as well. But during the year, they were a little more political. So, the bass, playing something like this. In the middle, and the high one, off beats. So you would hear from a distance the low one. Inside it will be, it's this middle one going. A dominant, two together, partially swallowed up, and then the solo. So when you're playing congas, it's amazing. I'll try and do this on a djembe. You would have the ability to play all 3 parts, but usually they want 3 people, 1 for each drum. And then when you're playing bomba, I'm going to use your drum right here. Now, you guys, you got your shakers? All right, so shakers, you're playing, like bomba, is that a living newspaper? Not so much, but today it's more like a relaxation thing. You know, lyrics were a little more about enjoying life because they do this often on Sundays, the day off. But now it's become a political statement in a lot of ways, a protest, a way of affirming your space, your identity. And bombas are celebrated more, you know, in the last 2 or 3 years. And people are always creating in the traditional stuff. What was traditional today used to be new when they first created it. And what's new today will be traditional in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. so they're creating new lyrics. Anyway, they have two basic ways of playing bomba. There's a lot of ways, but a lot of rhythms. Like this one, I want to say there's one in 4/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and one in 6/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they have, like capoeira has a lot of rhythms that tell you what's going on. Bomba has rhythms that also tell you what's going on. This one is Sika, and that is to dispel negative energy. This is probably one of the most popular. One is called Hollandesa, which is meant to imitate the affectations of the Dutch, because the Dutch weren't just in Suriname and what's that other country? Curaçao. But they were in other islands too. But yeah, a little different. And this one is called Sika, and this Yuba. I'm sorry, Sika was Yuba is one in 6/8. So let's try again the first one, Sika, which is. Yeah, that's right. Let's hit that maraca. Check, check. Wembe, wembe anda, anda wembe, wembe anda, wembe, wembe anda, anda wembe, wembe anda. Now they also had sticks. That was the 3 sticks they used: the drum, the stick, and the maraca. Remember, there's many people playing, not just me and you. Yeah, so, and then they all have dances. The dancer is showing the lead drummer in bomba what that person should play, as opposed to a lot of other times when the drummer is telling the dancer what to do. Like in rumba, the drummer is more control, the lead drummer, and in samba as well. But in bomba, the dancer is really within a certain movement vocabulary, expressing different emotions and feelings and sending messages and movements. That, like that, like that, that, moving. And I'm not going to do it because I'm nursing my leg, actually. So, ashe, ashe, ashe. Yeah, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Glad you're still with me.
Oh, yeah.
So, we didn't talk about the bells, and we talked a little bit about the scrapers. So I'm going to get into, back to the clave as I talk about the bells. So, see if we can clap the clave together. I'm sure you remember it. It goes like this. Okay, so that's the clave. And I think, now I'm still researching this, but I think the clave rhythm came from an African rhythm, a basic African rhythm, which we here in the West call the 6/8 rhythm. And it goes like this. That, I think, went through 2 changes. One was to shift it from 6/8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it went went to a 4/4 and it started to sound like this? Wait. Wait a minute. I'm not finding it. I'm going to skip that step. I'm going to go to the clave, and I think I'm going to go back to the middle, and hopefully I'll find it. Okay. Now that's clave, right? That's rumba clave. That's the step I was missing. Okay, so when it went to shift, it dropped some beats. Okay. But it did not shift out of 6/8. It stayed within the 6/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. That's the feeling, like you feel do get do get beat bop bop ba ba beat bop bop ba ba, and that came from being bop bop ba keep ba 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 keep bop bop ba keep ba. Watch now. Now. So they use that boom, bop, 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 bop for a lot of the Cuban rhythms, but then we're in secular music. You know, there's religious music, which I think is more of the origin of music, and then there's secular, which is the folk music, and then there's popular music, which is the bands and commercial music. So now let's go to the clave. Is rumba clave, that's son clave. Now son clave is, I'm sorry, I'm mixing it up because I'm using the wrong words. Son clave is the basic clave, right? Rumba clave would be. Okay, so the 6/8 would be the feeling, the same amount of notes, but done a little slow, with a little shift to the triplet feelings. So my point of all this is to say that I think the clave evolved from the African 6/8. But the clave is now something that we all know and love, and we play it without even knowing it. What do I have here? I have 2 Brazilian bells. They're called agogo bells. And this one probably is the more original one. You can't make the things come together, but it's light and it's pretty. Okay, this one, you can squeeze it and make more sound with it. Okay, so we have the ability to play the Brazilian national music called samba with this bell sweetening up the sound. You have your shakers. Let's hear your shakers. I shake, I shake, I shake, I shake, I shake, I shake, I shake. Another one. we have different versions of samba on the bell. I would say, I'm going to give you the bells. Bing, bing, bong, bong, bing, bong, bong, bing, bing, bong, bong, bing, bong, bong, bing, bing, bong, bong, bing. Okay, give it a shot. So you have the long stick, you get the long bell. Which one of you? All right. So turn it around, hit it with that end of the stick, yeah. Let's give it some experiments, try some experimental work there. So here's the African bell. There you go. So they're all double bells. And I think these were copies of this, not trying to make it, but making something in that spirit, with that memory, a retention of the culture. That's the original. This came later. And this was called a gonkogui. And I don't know if that name has anything to do with this being called the agogo. Gonkogui, agogo. You see any connection there? It's hard. You look for them, but you know, that may not be there. So try it. Let me hear a little something, something, please. Your bell, you guys are great. Sounding good. Can I borrow somebody's shaker? One of those. Wait, tell you what, I want you to keep your shakers. I'm going to get a shaker over here I'll use. Don't hate me because mine is loud. Okay, so now we're working with samba. And of course, the original samba sounded more like this. Now you got the shakers going on. Who wants to play a shaker? Just one of you. And the rest play bells. Okay, shaker over here. Go ahead, pick up your shaker, please. The rest of you play bells. A one, a two. Let's do it again now. Now what happens is we also have the shakers and the scrapers. These are scrapers from different parts of the world. This is more like a Caribbean style, like Harry Belafonte, the big bamboo. Deo, Republic. There are two of them. These are small versions. The guira, it's called G-U-I-R-A, guira. Oh. And this one here, it's crazy red in its color, but it is, I did have a stick in my hand. It is a guiro, G-U-I-R-O. Sometimes I put sticks in my pocket. I'll use this. And if you can use a skinny stick to play it. And this is used more in the Caribbean. Usually it's a gourd. It's not plastic. And you hold it like this is the top. And the beat that you can use that goes with everything is slow, quick, quick. Easy enough to do, right? And there are ways to improvise and be creative, but the foundation is slow. One of them. It's not the only one. But it really works for so many things. And you can use this one that same way, and so forth. Then we have the Brazilian sounds of the heckle heckle. This used to be maybe a drain pipe on a house. This spring from a screen door maybe. So dampen it and let it go. So you have that. Do you go slow, quick, quick with it? Not so much fun. That's more fun. So the heckle heckle, and it's spelled R-E-C-O, R-E-C-O. And again, this is an example of holding on to the culture, using what's around. Because what was around, it was different things than you had with the country you came from, so you got to use what you have. And with this, they entered into the carnival world and samba, instead of the samba folkloric, called the samba de roda in a lot of ways. There are many kinds of samba. There's pagode, there's the samba dura, there is samba de roda, and the samba they use for carnival is samba enredo, E-N-R-E-D-O, samba story, because the samba schools all have a story, they have a theme, that's the competition. And they all, the theme is for everyone that year, and next year it changes, so all the schools have to interpret it their own way. And they go all out, and then you see who does it the best. And that's what the competition is all about. So they have to stick to the theme. Yep. And they use the basic beat. This aspect of it, what aspect of it am I saying is basic? It's the close and the open. And that's what you hear when you hear the sword. I'm really missing not having another stick, and I don't know what I did with it. Got to get it. Anybody have a spare stick around there? It's too late. Okay, you use that. Okay, so what I just did was close and open, right? Big do-do. And then the samba dance is something that is duplicated in the beat. You have goo-git, goo-goo, gig-git, goo-goo. And the samba step, dun-dun, doom, doom. I tell people to go back, front, back, front. So you're going doom, doom, bounce, doom, doom, bounce, doom, 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 doom. The music, good chick, go doom, 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 good dick, 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 go doom, good dick. So that's the beat of the samba. That's the dance of the samba. And they have different interpretations, like but it goes with that two-beat thing. Okay, so I'm trying to get it right here. Okay. Again, would one person be doing all this? No. You have three people, one for each drum. So, I don't have that luxury today, so I'm going to do this. I'll explain what this drum does in a minute. Okay, so we have the bass drums called the surdu. And the surdu comes from the word deaf, because the deaf people can feel it through the ground. Because there's a high and a low, right? Like I did before. Imagine dancing to this, and then their own version of clave would be. If people were dancing, clapping to this, they would clap that way, what I'm doing. Let's try clapping. Ba, button, ba, 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 ba, button. Okay, one of you take your shaker, just shake it the way we showed you. No, that's not what we showed you. Shake it steady all the time. Good. Now, come on the bell. Now we're getting somewhere. Then we have the snare drum, known as the parole. Yeah, hard to keep it up, huh? All these polyrhythms. Okay, now this drum here is the leader. And this drum is called the repeating drum, the hepik. After the word to repeat. I can't do it with one hand. I have to use two hands. Bit, boom, bit, boom, bit, boom, That's the way you end. So we have all this going. Ready, everybody? A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we've come to the end of our program today. Yeah, just getting ready to dance, right? Get up. But, well, we have to go home. Library does need to pay attention to the schedule. Tomorrow's another day. So I want to thank you very much for coming out and being part of the audience, and it can't happen without you. And I appreciate your taking part and being interested.
Thank you. That was a really wonderful performance. Thank you so much. And this was, I think, our first Juneteenth event. So we're very honored that you would come and share some of your wonderful knowledge of all your instruments and to just make it a very happy, uplifting day.
Yeah.
Happy
Thank you very
Juneteenth,
much.
everybody. Thank you.
So there we are. Thanks for your help, Bill. You're welcome.